Hi friends, welcome to my channel, and this is the next Decan in my Decan journey, my Decanic journey, and it's the 10 of Pentacles. Now I'll put a link to the playlist below for all the ones I've done so far. I started last November, so there's a few there. And what I'm looking at with the minor cards is their associated majors as assigned by the Order of the Golden Dawn. And this card is dense, it's just packed. It's the most convoluted, complicated card that I've actually come across, and it's taken me ages to research everything. But it is fascinating. The crystals that are assigned to these cards from the Crystal Magic Tarot, which is a deck I've been using all the way through to assign crystals to the various cards that I've been exploring, are blue chalcedony for the Hermit, and I explained in the last couple of videos that I actually don't have any, so I'm terribly sorry I can't show you that. I might find a picture off the internet and put that there. And for the Magician, we have jade. It's a tiny, tiny piece here. And then for the 10 of Pentacles, it's emerald. And so I've got a little piece here of rough emerald. Okay. So what I normally do is I look at the astrological associations to the cards to gain a deeper insight into what's going on here. So for the Hermit we have Virgo, which I talked about in the last couple of videos. For the Magician, we have Mercury, and here is Mercury depicted in the Thoth card, or Hermes. Now the interesting fact about these cards for this Decan is the fact that Hermes, or Mercury, several names, is not only assigned to the Magician but also is the ruler of Virgo, which is the Hermit. So there's a real Hermes element to these cards. Mercury is totally prominent within these cards, and this is evident actually in the Thoth card, because every little sign here relates in one way or another to Mercury. And the top one you can actually see is the glyph for Mercury. Now just going down this path took me ages, trying to find out what every single symbol is on this card, and so I will share that with you in a little while. First of all, like I said, let's just have a little look at the astrological associations. And for that I'm going to use the Star Codes Astro Oracle because it's absolutely beautiful. I have a video that shows all my oracle decks that are astrological, so I'll link that below as well. Look at the back of these. They are just stunning. So let's see what cards we have here. For Mercury we have messages, because Mercury was the messenger god and he could deliver messages between worlds. So that's a Magician card. Interesting, we have the Caduceus as well on there, and the key word there is messages, as I said. Then for Virgo, for the Hermit, we have this beautiful card here which says digest, and we've got some sheaves of wheat here, and of course wheat is a staple food. Now if we look at the time of year that this is assigned to, it makes perfect sense, because it's from the 12th to the 22nd of September, the time of harvest, the time where we're gathering the grain in, or the farmers are gathering the grain in, and that'll be used to actually make sustainable cereal and bread and carbohydrates really that we need for energy to get us through the winter. And obviously that was more important back in the day, before supermarkets, before the way we eat, well, the way we shop for food now. This would have been very different. And I talked in the last video about my parents and my grandparents and their farming. So they would, be very in tune with this energy here. So from the guidebook for Virgo and Digest, it says it's symbolised by a goddess, a woman or a goddess, holding a sheaf of wheat. The mutable sign, earth sign of Virgo is ruled by Mercury. Wheat can only feed the multitudes once the grain is sorted from the chaff. So Virgo is connected to the nervous system and the intestinal tract, the job of which is to sort nutrients from waste. So yeah, sorting the wheat from the chaff, which is quite an old saying, isn't it? And then for Mercury and messages, well, it's quite common knowledge that when Mercury is in retrograde, then messages don't always get through, do they? And seems to, there seems to be trouble with technology as well in a Mercury retrograde. So we can clearly see how messages align to Mercury. And it's all about communication. And of course, miscommunication when it's in retrograde. It says mythological Mercury could be a trickster when he worked for himself, but he also played the role of psychopomp, diving into the underworld to escort trapped spirits out of it. So if you need to go down into your own personal underworld, it may be time to walk with a therapist, shamanic healer or other integrous guide into that deep realm. So a shadow work energy there. So Mercury can travel between our world and the next, or the underworld, or our subconscious, or however you want to think about that. And if you look at the Magician card here in the Rider-Waite-Smith, you can see that our Magician here is actually pointing from above to below. As above, so below. And the time of year again is the time of, we've just done the autumn equinox, so now the days are getting shorter, the nights are getting longer, and so we're going into the darkness this time of the year. So that sort of aligns as well, really, doesn't it? It really is a time of transition. When we look at both cards here, both the Rider-Waite-Smith and the Thoth, there's some very prominent details, and then there's some very small details. So let's talk the prominent details. Obviously the coins. Here we can see 10 coins, here we can see 10 coins, and the interesting thing about the 10 coins is on both cards they're actually in the shape of the Kabbalistic tree of life. Starting at Keter and ending at Malkut. Malkut is the world of mankind, the earth, the present day living where we are now sort of thing, whereas Keter is spirit, it's the unknown, unmanifest. So we're going from unmanifest to manifest. So once again our Magician is going from above to below. So because these two images are quite dense, I thought what I'd do is I'd get the bigger versions out, so we've got a better chance of actually seeing what I'm talking about. So here's my massive 10 of Pentacles. It's quite big, isn't it? But it gives us an opportunity to actually see more of the details, and I think this is one of the busiest cards in the whole deck. So I will put it right there, and hopefully you can zoom in on it. Okay. Right, the first interesting thing about this card is the fact that the signature of Pamela Colman Smith is at the top, and that is the only card with it at the top. Most of the cards it's got it on the right hand side down there, and I think it's because it was so busy there was nowhere to put it. So let's talk a little bit about it. So as you can see, it's a very dense image. It looks to me like it's a stage card because of these lines here. This infant on the lines and the dogs on the lines. To me that looks like one of the stage cards, but I could be wrong. So let's break down the symbols. I've already talked about these coins here being in the shape of the tree of life. Interesting thing here is this the old man here takes up the majority of the card, really, don't you know, when you look at him in comparison to everything else in the card, he's quite prominent, and he's got his back to us. He's got one hand on the dog, and then the little infant here has got their hand on the tail. So this also, I think, speaks to beginnings and endings, because the tail is the end and the head is the beginning. I think this is quite apt as well, because I always, if a child comes up to Kai, up to my dog, and goes to stroke him, I always tell them to stroke at the back first. Don't go straight for the head. It's not a good idea. You know, we have to start small, don't we? Now, there's conjecture that these two figures are one and the same. They are the Fool. Other people think this is the Hermit. It can also look like the King of Pentacles a little bit, with that robe that they've got on there. It's very decorative. And I've seen, well, I've read what's on this, supposedly on this cloak, and I have a bit of trouble actually seeing what they're seeing. One thing I do see is the moon, crescent moon here, and to me moons talk about the cycles. So that could be the cycle of life, which I see here as well, because we've got an infant, a couple, and we have an older gentleman here. And so you could see that as the cycles of life from beginning to end. And then the dogs are only interested in the old man, not taking any interest in the rest of the scene. And there is a myth, isn't there? Is it Oedipus, who comes back from the war in disguise as a beggar, and it's only his dog that recognises him. He's been away for a long time. I think it's 11 years being away, and the dog recognises him. So I have heard that maybe this is what this is alluding to. These seem to be in deep conversation here. And there's also conjecture this might actually be the lady from the Nine of Pentacles, the preceding card, because of the tilt of the head. But I don't know. I think that just might be Pixie's art style, possibly. But there's lots of conjecture, and I think it's up to us to actually sit with it and see what aligns with what we think, how we see the image and how we see the card. So, if this is the Fool, and this is the Fool, then this is the beginning and the end of the tarot journey, because the Fool starts the tarot in the Golden Dawn system, and the Ten of Pentacles is the very last card in that Golden Dawn system. So it's the beginning and the end again. So you can see it here, I think. The blue seems to align here, so this infant must have some connection to this figure here with his back to us, whoever that is. So yeah, again, conjecture. What else do I see? I see nature being held back, actually. You know, much like I said in the Nine of Pentacles, where the lady is secure and safe and walled away from the world in their own private pleasure palace, if you like. No, that's the wrong way of saying it. But in their own private garden. I think, I don't know, but if you look here in the background, see that building there, and the way that the top of the building, that point at the top of the building is here. So there and there, that struck me. I'm wondering if there's a connection. There is an actual connection there. But again, it could just be Pixie's art style. You know, could be reading way too much into these things. But because the trees are on the other side of the wall, because nature here, I mean, we've got water, we've got rocks, we've got flowers, we've got some sort of a castle, you know, all this sort of nature thing isn't in the picture. It's separated from it, either as an art piece maybe, or behind the wall. So yes, it could talk of security, but it could also mean your disassociating from the world and in your own cocoon and not part of what's going on the outside. And indeed this is a portal, so maybe so. The other interesting thing for me was the staff here. Again, I think this sort of alludes back to the Fool, because the Fool has the same sort of black staff. So there we go. So we've got that black staff there on the Fool, and then we've got this black staff here again. So I just see the connection between the beginning of the tarot deck and the end of the tarot deck in that. That's my thinking anyway. So what else can I see? I can see grapes, so that indicates wealth, doesn't it? Which is a major part of this card. And that's why I thought about the King of Pentacles, because they've also got lots of grapes on their robe. And there's that look. There's that turret again. Maybe it is just Pixie's art style, and maybe just reading too much into that. Maybe this person has come. This is just conjecture, okay? So maybe this person has come along with the Fool's wand, ready to actually give it to the Fool for the next stage of the journey, this being the Fool. Or maybe the old man, being the Fool, has handed over the wand to be given to the innocent. Could be, couldn't it? And also the fact that the dogs are here, and we see a dog on the Fool card as well. So they just seem to really align together as a cycle of life. And if our magician here is the psychopomp, who actually goes between worlds and takes us from one world to the next, then that aligns as well. So maybe this, you know, the old man is, my work is done, I'm passing on the baton to the next generation. And I think that's where the ancestor side of this card comes in. And of course, Pentacles are not just about money, they're also about health. And that's, I mean, we can sort of see that here as well, can't we? We can see that this is the infant and come into the world and not yet conditioned, whereas this couple is now conditioned, they're all conditioned. This guy probably was conditioned, but maybe has seen through it. But we have to go through life. We have to find our own way through life in order to attain this sort of wisdom. The other things, there's a lot of things on here. The other things, there's some scales here, which reminds us of the Justice card and the Six of Pentacles. So the Six of Pentacles, giving and receiving of assets. And then we have, and of course, Justice as well. You know. And what else do we have? I thought as well, when I was thinking about cycles, about the buildings, because we've got a building, I think it's a building here on top of a rock, which is in a very rough form. So maybe that was the beginning of the journey, when we didn't have all the tools we needed to make something beautiful, but we started. This was the beginning of our journey. And then as we went on through life, we started to perfect it. And here we have a much better looking building. Apparently this is Winchelsea, a place that Pamela Coleman-Smith liked to go. And then when we started accumulating wealth and we could put more money into buildings, then this is what we produced. Yes, something a lot more substantial. But what else do I see? I thought this was the moon, from the moon card, but I'm not sure. I thought there might actually be the two towers in the moon card. Let's bring it up. Going between those two towers. I thought that might be. Or this could be the actual tower card that's not yet fallen, or has fallen and now has been rebuilt. It's such a fascinating card, isn't it? And then we've got this checkered pattern, black and white. Is everything black and white thinking? Or is it strategy? Do we need strategy to get here? We've got instinct here. So if I thought, this is the moon card, then this is the dog and the wolf of the moon card. But they've been domesticated now. Domesticated enough that when a child pulls its tail, it takes no notice, and that's a very domesticated dog. So control there as well, learning control. Whereas when we start off as the Fool, there is no control. And if this is the end of the journey, well, what does everybody want from life? Well, health, wealth and happiness. Those are usually the three things that are cited, aren't they? And we can see that here, I think. Health, wealth and happiness. So we've actually attained what we wanted. We've become the magician. We've brought down all those things that we actually desired to the earth plane. And we started at Keter. And the energy has flown down through the tree of life. In fact, it goes that way. It goes there, 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 there. That's Tiferet. So it's a 6. And then we go 7, 8, 9, 10. I will go over that a little bit more in the Thoth card because it's got all the symbology on the Thoth card that we need to look at. Okay, let's take these out of the way for a sec. And have a look at the Thoth card. I decided to bring out my large Thoth in the bag I knitted for it, so we can actually have a look at it a little bit closer. So let's find the cards. There's the 10. Now that might just look like 10 coins, but no, it's very esoteric symbology on this card, incredibly so. So we've got lots of coins falling in the background in shadow, and then we've got the major coins here in, again, the shape of the tree of life, and even the abyss there. So let's just go through each symbol on the coins. So if we start at the top here, this is the actual glyph for Mercury itself, is the common glyph. And if we go here to Hokmah, so that's Keter, sorry, that's Keter with the Mercury symbol, that's Hokmah, and it's got the symbol of Mercury, but actually as the magician, because if you look, the arm positions here are the same on that. Clever, huh? Then we go over to Bina, and this is the alchemical symbol for Mercury. Hesed, there, and also Geburah are both Hebrew letters, and they are assigned to Beth, which is assigned to Mercury. Okay. In Tiferet here, this one's interesting because it's actually the name of Raphael, which is the angel associated to Mercury. Here we have the 8-pointed star of Mercury in Netzach. In Hod, we've got a hexagram within a hexagram, which is a symbol of the sun. And this is in Hod, which is actually assigned to Mercury itself. I'll talk about this one in a little bit, but this Malkut is the Caduceus there. You can see the Caduceus that we assign to Mercury. And it's actually made up from the 3 mother letters of the Hebrew alphabet. This is interesting because this is, let me get my notes, Shin, Aleph and Mem. So what I found interesting as well is this is the sun, this is the moon, and this is the earth on the tree of life. Let's just look at this one. I don't know if you can actually, if I get really close, if you can actually see what that says. It's an upward pointing triangle and it has numbers on it. Those numbers are 8, 36, 260 and 2080. And I had to do a bit of digging to find out what that is, but actually it's what's called the magic square. And I will put a link to a video below that explains this magic square, because this is the magic square that's actually assigned to Mercury. There's magic squares that are assigned to others like Venus, Mars, etc. But this one is the one that's actually assigned to Mercury. And it is fascinating. I don't do maths myself, but yeah, I'll put a link to it below, because if this is something that interests you, this is part of sort of the magical workings, because the Golden Dawn was using tarot as part of magical workings. And if you, the numbers are in a square, as it says, the magic square. It starts at 8 at one side, but there's a series of numbers. There's 64 numbers within this square, and they all add up. I think it's to 260 across. If you add them across, or if you add them down, or if you add them diagonally, I think it's 260. And there's lots of other commutations on that within the magic square. But basically, if you take the letters from the Hebrew alphabet, each letter is assigned to a number. And then if you use those numbers and then you draw them on the magic square, it forms a glyph. And then that is the glyph that you use for your magic workings. So if you want a glyph that's to do with communication and all the things that are assigned to the magician or assigned to Mercury, then that's how you would do it. Clever, huh? But yeah, it took a bit of digging to find it, but I will share it with you, and I'll put the link below, as I say. So yeah, but maybe those coins in the background, I don't know, maybe they could be the shadow aspect of money, or maybe they could be the ancestors that were behind how this wealth was accumulated and where it started before it ended up here. So because this is the end of the tarot card journey, then there's nowhere else to go, because we're right back down here in Malkuth. So the only way to go, there's a saying, isn't it, the only way is up. And that is the same here, because if we follow the Golden Dawn system, then from the Ace of Pentacles, we start the journey again from Keter. So we start all over again at the beginning of the tarot, which would be the Ace of Wands. And so, you know, we light the spark that starts the next journey. And that goes well when you think about this as ancestors and as using the wealth that's been accumulated to do something good in the world. Because if you just leave it and don't do anything with it, then it's just a pile of coins, isn't it? You know, it's useless really, just as a pile of coins. So you need to actually do something with it, which I think is where the next step comes in, the Ace of Wands, where that spark of an idea comes. And so, you know, we have very rich people who have given back to the community, built libraries, and, you know, Victorian age was very prevalent at doing this sort of thing. I mean, the Cadbury brothers, they built houses for the workers. You know, there's lots of historical illustrations of this. Also, if you think about it, agriculturally as well, you don't just take from the land, you have to give back to the land for the next season. You know, this time of year, we're going into winter, then things become dormant. But it's important to actually make sure there's enough nourishment for next year's growth. So doing something good with the harvest and not just taking from it. And I don't know if you remember, but there always used to be harvest festivals at the church. When I was a kid, I went to church. I think most of us did as children. And yeah, the harvest festival, people would bring excess food into the church, and it would all be laid out beautifully and then given to those in need. And so it's nice to give back, isn't it? I mean, you know, even if it's just to take your old books to a charity shop, you know, it's doing something with what you've got, with what you've accumulated, that you no longer, you know, to do something in the world with, rather than to just, you know, if you've got a whole load of plates in your cupboard and there's only 2 of you, why not actually take them to, you know, the excess plates to the charity shop, where it could help a young family who's just starting out in life. It's energy, you know, if we use this as energy to flow. Energy needs to flow. It can't stagnate, or it will be the end of the journey. And yeah, down to Hades. I know this is a bit of a somber note really, but it's sort of going on this theme. But I've looked into natural burial. So what I always wanted was to actually be buried like it's in a pod, and you're curled up like in the fetus position in a pod, and that is buried underground. And I would wanted a tree above me, maybe an apple tree, so as my body disintegrated, any nutrients from my body would feed the tree, and therefore life again, you know, because they say energy never dies, it just transmutes into something else. And it's a nice thought to think that you could come back as a tree, and it's actually possible. So yeah, not all doom and gloom. Life carries on in one form or another. Yeah. So completion. And that can also mean appreciation, you know, appreciating what you've actually got, but not holding on to it. Being able to let the energy flow, so it's a new seed, a new cycle. And abundance can be knowledge as well, can't it? You know, so it's not just it's not just giving away your inheritance, you know, to your next generation, or money. It's also knowledge. So actually there's two ways I can go with this. There's knowledge, so you can hand down your experience, and I know it's not always welcome. What's the old man talking about? But yeah, it's or teaching. It could be teaching and handing down to the next generation that will hopefully do some good in this world. But also, if you think about health, then it can be handing down good genes. So if you look after your body, if you're abundantly healthy because of the lifestyle that you've lived, then that presumably would travel down the genes to the next generations. That's the way I'm thinking anyway. And if we think about the end and the scales here on Rider-Waite-Smith, then maybe that is, you know, the myth, or that when we die, when we leave this world and travel to the next, then we have to be accountable for the life that we've lived. And so it's weighing the heart against the feather. Yeah. See what I mean about there's just so much symbology in these cards. I mean, the child, the innocent child, the dogs here, they see the truth so much clearer than conditioned adults. And then maybe it takes it till we are a lot older before we realise that truth. We don't always listen to the wisdom of our elders. And sometimes, you know, we learn it the hard way, don't we? Also leaving things out for the birds, leaving things out for the animals from the harvest. I think that used to be a tradition as well. And if you think about what birds do, you know, they take the seed, they eat the seed, and they nourish the land. So again, it's that cycle. It's talking about cycles. We went from the Ace of Pentacles, we took that Ace of Pentacles and increased that Ace to the 10. Oh yeah, lots of ways to go with this, isn't there, you know? The wisdom of the old man. Is this the Hermit? Because that's another train of thought. Maybe this is the Hermit. But then the Fool goes through the tarot, doesn't it, and becomes the archetypes throughout the tarot. So it could be any of those major cards. But I think the underlying theme is the journey from the Fool all the way to the end of the tarot. The journey that Fool takes and the wisdom that's accumulated from that. Whether that is the King of Pentacles or the Hermit or even the Fool, you know, you could see it any other way, but I think it's sort of got the same connotations. But with all this wealth amassed, then we've got the security we need to actually take a new journey, a new venture. And we can appreciate everything we've got. We're content enough and secure enough to actually start again, because we've got this behind us, whether this is knowledge, whether this is health, or whether this is wealth. health, wealth and happiness. Let's have a little look at a few different decks. First one I want to look at is from Tarot of the Abyss by Anatolian, which is a black and white deck. It's a beautiful deck. And this is the card for the Ten of Pentacles. And we've got the family here, and we've got all these connections, this giving, this receiving. It's absolutely beautiful card. And the tree, I mean, we have the tree of life, but also the family tree. We've got some steps here, up and down. So again, up and down, the tree of life. Isn't that beautiful? And we can see the age as well within these, you know, two hands. Beautiful. Actually, I'll just read from the guidebook from this because it's beautiful. Two generations draw together with a simple handshake. This gesture transcends time and unites them in the passage of knowledge and wisdom, an embrace that offers counsel and protection. A spiral staircase winds its way from the older hand to the younger one, communicating the many lessons learned. The younger hand bears the fruitful tree from the Ace of Pentacles, while its roots reach back to the wizened hand of the older generation. What began so long ago as a seed has now bloomed and borne fruit. The Ten of Pentacles has at its core the concept of legacy and the impenetrable familial ties that bind. It's the heritage of wisdom, the most valuable gift from our ancestors, sustaining us through times of trial and adversity. And just as it was passed down to you either directly through your family line or sometimes through your extended family of friends and respected elders, so too must you pass down what you have learned along the spiral staircase to the next generation. Beautiful. So I thought I'd have a little look at the Handel Tarot, which is this deck here. It says complete with instructions, but I've actually got two books that go with this deck. One for the major and one for the minor, and they're written by Rachel Pollock, so, you know, Rachel Pollock. And here we've got 10 stones, and it says richness. Okay. And it says the richness of the earth. Once again, the name change makes clear that the Handel Tarot concerns itself with a richness beyond money. It also reminds us that we need to think of nature and the world around us as well as our own prosperity. The stones form the same pattern as the 10 cups in the final water card. Okay. This indicates to us that richness does not mean only material wealth, although it does not reject that either, but also happiness and a good life. So there we go, health, wealth and happiness. Herman Handel has said that he wanted his vision to go beyond the traditional meaning in order to show the richness of an abundant nature, a sense of both the world and the individual person, healthy and alive. And then we have a hexagram there at the top. And Benabel Wen does hexagrams with their deck as well, don't they? So this is 48, the source. He describes it as the divine source of nourishment, there we go, and meaning. Inexhaustible, it never changes, for it exists beyond the material form it awakens. We can think of it perhaps as the light in the card of the moon, but also we've got the light in the Hermit's lamp. So maybe the Vision Quest Tarot is also pretty much based on the Thoth, I think. Let's have a look at the card for. It's called Earth in this deck. There you go. 10 of Earth, wealth. So that's an interesting image, isn't it? Instead of actual coins, you see the wealth of the land and the earth. See what the guidebook says. It's a tiny little guidebook for this one. Overflowing luxury, abundance, rich harvest, best intentions, your creativity bears fruit. You have found an opening to your inner treasure chamber. Now you can radiate this glory and warm the whole world. Let others share in your good fortune. Whatever you share comes back to you manifold. The most precious thing you have is your inner being, just as it is. To be truly wealthy means giving of your inner self unrestrictedly. The more faithful you are to your inner values, the more gifts are showered on you. So it's about internal wealth as well as external wealth. But it warns that it can't be static. It must be circulated. And then it says, perhaps this is a good time to pour some of your overflowing energy into a venture that has less to do with material profit taking than with loving generosity. So that actually aligns again to going back to sharing to make something new, you know, and who sparked the Ace of Wands. So yeah, that aligns well as well. So here I've got the Way Home Tarot, and the author of this deck, that actually even doesn't even say it on the box there, but it is the same author of this book here. WTF is Tarot and How Do I Do It? So it's Baccara Wintner, and it uses the illustrations from this deck. So yeah, let's just. What I liked about this one doesn't actually have an illustration in here of the card itself, but this is the card, and it shows places laid at a table with opulence and drinks and candles, all waiting to be delighted in. But actually what it says in the book alludes to the fact that we should be grateful for the journey we've been on. So it talks about backpacking basically around Asia, and the first time doing it when you're 21 and you're sleeping in rough hotels with bed bugs, and yeah, but you're doing it anyway, you know, you're on rickety old buses, but you're still exploring and enjoying every minute of it. And then you go again, but you're older and you've accumulated wealth, and now this time you're able to sleep in luxury hotels and, you know, we travel in a better seat on the plane. You know, you're doing it more luxuriously anyway. And what they ask you to do is to remember when you are in this position, when you have got the money to actually travel more luxuriously, to actually acknowledge those who are serving you. So the flight attendant maybe, or the waitress or the waiter, you know, look them in the eye when you order and say thank you when they bring you your food. They're at the beginning of their journey. They haven't got the money now, you know, it's their turn to start. I hope you are kind taxi drivers. I hope you are generous with your abundance. I hope you believe these vastly different experiences in the exact same place are equal in value. I hope you don't forget her, meaning the person you were at the start of the journey. When you were younger, when you didn't have this accumulated wealth and knowledge. Just do not forget where you've come from. In the Tarot Volatile, we have alternative cards for some of them, and one of them is the Ten of Pentacles, which is this one here. So I'll just show you the one out of the book because it's nice and large, and it says the alternative card, having the patriarch depicted here, much bigger than the other elements, unveils his ancestry. A distant forefather that built a rich environment for his descendants. We can imagine a successful business that continues from father to son, generation after generation, and that allows the family to thrive. The connected circles in the background perfectly represent a sense of family, familiar union and harmony. These circles here. So whenever I get a delivery from Oneness Emporium, they include some cards from other decks, and my last one, it was the Ten of Pentacles, which I thought was amazing. But here, this is the is it the Charles Harrington Vampire Tarot? I think it's one I actually haven't got, but we can see the Tree of Life there, not quite in the formation, but almost, and we can see the generations here as well. So, and the opulence handed down. That's a nice image, isn't it? So I thought I'd just include that. The last tarot card I wanted to look at was from the Osho Zen, and this is the Ten of Earth. And I think it clearly depicts, for me anyway, the essential meaning of the Ten of Pentacles. Just to recognise that we are all one on this earth. There's no separation. We're all connected. I think that's a lovely message from that deck. So finally, let's look at the crystals from the Crystal Magic Tarot. This is Kerry Ward and Claire Gregory. And as I said, it's blue chalcedony for the Hermit. For the Magician, it's jade, and then emerald for the Ten of Pentacles. So let's see what it says for the Ten of Pentacles, which is coins actually in this suit. So, emerald. A magnet for good fortune, luck, and abundance. Emerald inspires positive action by eliminating negativity and raising consciousness. Get it into focus. Said to promote loyalty, so there we've got the dogs for loyalty. Domestic bliss and encourage a happy home. Emerald may not only bring material wealth but also bring riches in your relationships and emotional life. In fact, it was believed by some that an emerald would change colour if someone was being unfaithful to you. Yeah, I've heard that before actually. I think that was why it was quite a popular stone in engagement rings. Anyway, known as the stone of successful love, emerald is a wise, patient gemstone. Okay, so wise and patient, would imagine there. Unless I've got it all wrong and he's a grumpy old man. It's perfect for manifesting balanced relationships. So we've got a balanced relationship here, and healthy, loving environments. Yeah, so it goes really well, doesn't it? Let's have a quick look at the Magician actually. I don't normally do it with the crystals assigned to the major arcana, but I'm just interested to see what the Magician has for jade. Being that the Magician is the major component of these cards. We have jade. Okay. Jade is a crystal traditionally associated with good luck and wealth, but it's even more special than that. Jade helps you know yourself, and when you know yourself, you can be yourself and let all your talents and unique skills shine. That's interesting, isn't it? Because isn't that above the Temple of Delphi? Know yourself. You can be yourself and let all your talents and unique skills shine. This authenticity brings prosperity and abundance, luck and fortune in the best possible way through exercising your own imagination and skill. Jade brings the self-confidence you may need to put your dreams and ambitions into action. Yeah, it does align well with the Magician actually. And as I say, I haven't got blue chalcedony. However, just a little bit interested to see what it says. Blue chalcedony is a stone of calm, serenity and peace. Okay, so it really is aligned to the Hermit energy, isn't it? Like a cool, soothing ocean view, it relieves stress and promotes inner peace and self-care. A particularly good stone for inducing a good night's sleep and dissipating nightmares, blue chalcedony will harmonise your body and mind and promote optimism and enthusiasm. If you need to close the door on the outside world and focus on a task, this crystal can help you ease into that flow zone, where time flies by and you come out at the other side feeling as though you've been in a deep meditation. So concentration. So let's have a look at the cards. So this is the one for the Magician, which I have shown before. The Hermit, which again I've shown before. And then this is the Ten of Coins. Yeah, we've got the dog. Dogs feature quite prominently in this card, don't they, in the Ten of Coins. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there because this is an awfully long video. And as I said, it's a convoluted card. There's a lot to this card. There's a lot in this card. It's so rich with symbolism. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my little discoveries and maybe made a few of your own. If you've got any, then yeah, leave them in the comments underneath. I'm willing to learn more. And thank you once again so much for watching my little videos and my learning process as I go through these decans. And until the next time, bye friends, bye.